Just 37 years old with no experience as an elected official and a fairly small campaign war chest, but he says it would be a mistake to take his candidacy lightly.
Republican pitbull Dan Proft has made a name for himself as a political commentator and consultant, and now he's running for governor of Illinois. Dan, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So why do you think he can win this race?
Well, I mean, I think the Republican Party is looking for something qualitatively different. A candidate who has the diagnosis of what's wrong with state government correct, and then is going to be unabashed and unapologetic about proposing the system change ideas that are required to unfix state government, as I like to
very
say.
briefly, what is wrong with state government, in your view?
Politicians in both parties say Illinois is broken, the system is broken. And my point is, no, it's not broken, it's fixed. In other words, the fix is in for the politicians in this state. State government is producing exactly what it's intended to produce, which is secure jobs and guaranteed pensions for the patronage armies that support the Chicago Democrats in control. That's the game. People who play by the rules in the state are getting scammed as the public sector cannibalizes the private sector to finance the status quo. So you have to have a candidate, the Republican Party needs a candidate for the first time in a long time, who is willing to take the fight to the Chicago Democrats, hold them accountable for destroying the state's economy, and present that clear contrast conservative reform agenda.
But how do you present yourself when we don't have much of a reputation downstate yet, you don't have a big campaign war chest, you've never held elective office, as we say.
Right.
So how do you make that jump to that big seat?
Well, I mean, you know, this is my first time running for office, but it's not my first rodeo. I've run a lot of campaigns in the state, statewide campaigns. I know the political landscape. I know the political players. I know the topography and the demography of the state of Illinois. I've served in state government. I've served in local government. And most importantly, I am the one and the only candidate in this race talking about big system change ideas for the big ticket items in state government. K through 12 education, our transportation infrastructure, business climate, and dealing with health care.
And Dan, you're also, in the eyes of some, the sort of political gadfly that could make this a very difficult picture for the Republican Party, because you could attract votes from the conservative base. And has anyone approached you and suggested that you drop out of this race so a so-called mainstream candidate would have an unopposed primary?
Well, I mean, nobody's approached me because nobody's got the guts to approach me. That's number one. Number two, I am the mainstream conservative. I am the conservative who represents the base of the party. Those other folks who talk about being Republican Party builders and then who vote for tax increases or borrowing or bad public policies, expanding gambling to finance infrastructure.
But isn't the traditional argument here that only a moderate Republican really has a chance in a statewide race?
It's not
you
true.
Don't buy that, do you?
It's absolutely not true. Peter Fitzgerald was not a moderate, but he was an unapologetic reformer who articulated a clear contrast message with what the Chicago machine was all about 10 years ago. In the intervening 10 years, we've had all kinds of moderates that have gotten their brains beat in. Judy Bartopinko is no conservative, right? We've had a lot of moderates that have gotten their brains beat in, because when you get on that stage, you better have something to say that's about the salient issues of the day. You better be able to articulate a vision for what Illinois can be, where Illinois could go if we pursued these big system change, conservative reform ideas that I'm speaking about.